This week on the Business Owner's Corner, I'd like to talk about managing cash in a construction business. We work with a fair amount of people who own construction businesses, and one thing that's really typical that we see is you have too much cash in the business account, right? And it seems weird to say that you could have too much cash in the business account, but here's why there's too much cash in the business account. Once you have enough to cover your expenses for the next 3 to 6 months, you cover all your projects and the stuff that you want to spend money on. If you have more cash than that, it's losing purchasing power by the day. Inflation is a big deal right now. We have prices of goods and services across the board going up 7% a year on average. Prices of a lot of construction materials are going up a lot faster than that. And the interest rate that you get on that cash that's sitting in your business account is growing a lot less than that. So every day that you have an extra dollar sitting in your business account that you don't really need in the business, it's losing purchasing power to inflation. So here's a framework that we like to use to figure out how and when to distribute that extra cash, determine whether you have extra cash in the first place, and where does it go once you distribute it. So typically, we like to think of this as a function of your monthly operating expenses. So if you typically have payroll and rent for an office and equipment and materials and so on and so forth, add up what they typically cost in a given month. And I realize that it fluctuates a little bit. Take your best guess, be conservative, and then multiply it by somewhere between 3 and 6, depending on where you're comfortable. Most people that we work with in our financial planning firm like to keep somewhere between 3 and 6 months worth of expenses in the business bank account. So simple example, let's say that you've got $10,000 of monthly expenses in your construction business and you want to keep 6 months worth of expenses in the bank at all times. Well, you take 10,000, multiply it by 6, always keep $60,000 in the bank. Let's say you have a big project coming up that you're bidding on and you have a high chance of winning, and you need some extra cash to finance the materials or something like that. Well, if you want to keep an extra $40,000 aside for that purpose, well, take 60,000, that's your core operating cash, add 40 to it. It gets you to $100,000. So if you're someone who's sitting with $250,000 in the business bank account, and you need 60 for your operating cash and you need 40 for this upcoming project, well, you have 150,000 more than you need, my friend, and it's probably time to take that 150,000 out and do something more efficient with it. Because if you don't, you're going to pay tax on that 150 and you're going to lose purchasing power day by day by day in this inflationary environment. So, from a tax standpoint, it doesn't matter whether that extra money sits in the business account or you take it out and put it in your personal account. If you have an s-corporation, an LLC, or a sole proprietorship or a partnership, those are all pass-through business entities. You're going to be taxed on it whether it sits there or whether you take it out. So number one, if you have $150,000 extra or any extra sitting in the business bank account above what your core operating expense and slush fund operating capital needs to be, then you probably want to think about finding a deductible expense to spend it on, contributing to a qualified retirement plan. So you put the dollar in, that dollar is deductible contribution to a retirement plan, or maybe you pay down debt with it. If none of those things are available to you, or you've already done all those things, then you probably want to take the money out of the business, distribute it to yourself, and think about paying personal debt down, maybe investing. You buy rental properties. There are a lot of things that you can do with that extra cash. But the point is that everybody needs a framework for managing the cash in their business. And what we're seeing over and over and over again here recently, because there's been so much construction and development across the country over the last few years, last decade really, is that a lot of construction businesses have more cash than they truly need. And that's a drag on the purchasing power of that cash when it sits there unnecessarily. So I hope this was helpful. Come up with a framework however it works for you. This is how we typically teach it. You have free extra cash sitting there. It's time to do something more effective with it.